The Twilight Zone is a show that is an anthology that was created by Rod Serling in the late 1950s and is a massive inspiration for the writer of the show Black Mirror, Charlie Brooker. However, going back 50 years and watching something that has been created is sometimes extremely difficult for some people due to the difference in the technology at the time, the stories written, the acting standards, and the quality of the recording. Just to let you know, I'm talking about the original episodes of the show, not the remakes. With all this in mind, is the sci-fi anthology The Twilight Zone worth watching, and does it fill a hole that everybody needs whilst waiting for season 5 of Black Mirror? Before we go ahead, make sure you go over to my Twitter @brainpilot_ and tweet me what you think this is. I'll be posting the answer there. So without further ado, I'm Brainpilot, and here is The Twilight Zone. Is it worth watching? So, let's talk about it. I've not seen every episode of The Twilight Zone. It's spread over 5 seasons and there were 156 episodes. However, I've seen a number of them to gain a clear understanding on whether or not it is something that the people in 2018 would still be able to and want to watch. The stories within The Twilight Zone are some of the most pieced together stories that I've seen on television. For Rod Serling to be able to fit all of what he does in around 28 minutes is remarkable and extremely impressive. The story structure normally goes introduction, problem, panic, solution, twist. This is something that is great to see. Although you know that the structure is predictable, you never know what the problem or the twist is, so that is what makes it extremely interesting and has you constantly guessing. The twists that are carried out in the show are remarkable and have you wondering where it came from, or even feeling sorry for the main character, or thinking what the hell did I just watch. As well, you have to remember that this show was made in the 1950s and was way ahead of its time in terms of storytelling. The types of stories that they create, such as Eye of the Beholder, The Hitchhiker, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, they are all stories that you wouldn't have seen on any other show on television other than this. Due to the fact it's an old show, obviously it's in black and white and the resolution is 640 by 480 pixels, so it's not your 4K viewing experience or even your HD experience. This is something that if you're prepared to watch great storytelling, you have to get your head around. By the time you've started watching it, you don't even realize that you're watching something that you'd ordinarily find uncomfortable. The acting is something that is touch and go with each episode. Certain actors occasionally make different appearances throughout the seasons as different characters, and the quality tends to change from time to time. There are a number of famous actors that have been in the show, such as William Shatner, George Takei, and Cloris Leachman. The way the show was acted out back then is great to watch. However, at times it can be a bit corny and not to the standards that we expect today. But you don't expect that. I feel it all adds to the charm of the show when watching it. Some casts only contain around 2 to 3 people, and that's extremely interesting and entertaining to watch. The show being from the 50s obviously means that it can't make disaster events look like what we'd see today, due to the fact that the technology back then just wasn't as advanced as what it is now. Take for example the episode Time Enough at Last. When the nuclear bomb dropped, it was represented by a shake of the camera and his book opening. However, the barren wasteland of what the world had become was crafted really well. The Eye of the Beholder, the creatures that ruled the world were created solely by an art department, and not with the use of CGI. However, like I said, it all adds to the charm of the show that you're watching. The Twilight Zone is a show that if you're a fan of sci-fi, a fan of watching the demise of a character, or the fan of a bloody good storytelling, then this show is definitely the one for you. It's a show that many people steer away from due to the age of it and all of the previous problems that I mentioned. But they're not problems. That is just what television was like back then. I'm pretty sure that if you start watching The Twilight Zone, you won't want to stop. Also, the director of Get Out is rebooting The Twilight Zone, so there's always a modern version. But let's be honest, does anything ever beat the original? Especially when it has such respect. I look forward to watching it when it gets released though, but we'll see how it goes. Are you a fan of The Twilight Zone? What's your favorite episode? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.